I see little murtis of Damodara and Yashoda to celebrate our month of Kartik, the month of Damodara. So perhaps we should discuss this very special lila, which we're all familiar with. There's something about Krishna lila that even we already know the story, we want to hear it again. And as someone once said, when you listen to Krishna's pastimes, it is never that you have not heard it before. You've heard it before, and yet we want to hear again. When I think of Damodar, I think of thieves. Srila Prabhupada explains, of course, that where does this stealing propensity come from? I think he uses the word propensity. What would the Polish word for propensity?
Skłonność.
Mm-hmm.
Propensity, skłonność.
Skłonność.
Skłonność. Skłonność. So, yes, I would say we're from Jie. From. Where from is skłonność. In Polish?
Skąd pochodzą skłonności?
Skąd?
Pochodzą.
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 Pochodzą. From where?
It's coming from.
Pochodzą. Skąd?
Skąd is from where?
Skłonność.
Pochodzą is coming from.
Okay.
Skłonności.
See, you didn't know you were going to give me a Polish lesson. I'm thinking, actually, why bother to go to Poland? There's some Polish out there.
It's not the left in Poland.
Yeah, there's something. So, it's a philosophical point Prabhupada is making, a simple point. We all have this general idea that the Lord is the source of everything. Janmadyasya yataha, He's the source of everything. So, but then, what about bad things? What about evil? That's always the question. Where does evil come from? Or how does evil arise? But when we think about Lord Krishna and his stealing propensity, we immediately see that there's nothing evil about it. Right? It's something that we're all familiar with because we've all, truth be told, done it ourselves, one way or another. Either stealing cookies from the cookie jar, or stealing pennies from the piggy bank. He knows a lot about this. Or stealing more than pennies. But of course, Krishna is, we sort of want to put quotation marks around the word stealing when we speak of Krishna's stealing. We want to say it's so-called stealing. It's not really stealing. It's something else. But then again, if Krishna is the original thief, he's the Adi thief.
Adi Chor. Adi Chor.
Adi Chor, yes, he's the Adi Chor. Then we can reflect about not just that he is stealing milk products, and so we understand that he is not a vegan, But he is stealing other things as well. What else does he steal? Yes.
He stole the clothes of the gopis.
Oh, you know about that, do you? So young and he knows about these things. All right. Ah, indeed. And what else does he steal?
And the hearts.
Huh?
Hearts. And
He
the hearts.
steals hearts. Huh? Yeah, this is the real danger. In fact, Rupa Goswami gives a warning. He says, of course I won't remember the verse when I want to, but he's warning that you should not go and see that Govinda at Keshighat, who is standing in threefold bending form on the banks of the Yamuna. Don't go and see him, he says. Is that our philosophy? Don't go see Krishna? No? Rupa Goswami says. He says, then you may ask, so why not go to see Krishna? Because if you go to see him, then you will give up all your attachments in this world. No, then I won't go see him. Of course, it's a clever way of saying go see Govinda, because in that way then we can direct all our attachments, all our attractions to Krishna. Krishna will steal our hearts. So, so he's doing a lot of theft, and yet, let's think about it philosophically. Who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What qualifies someone to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead? We have a definition of God that Srila Prabhupada would quote from the Vishnu Purana, that Bhagavan is that person who possesses everything to an unlimited degree. He is possessing all opulences to an unlimited degree. So in other words, he possesses already everything. So then what is the question of stealing? Because stealing, what means stealing? It means taking something which is someone else's property. But then if everything is already Krishna's property, what's the question of stealing? Right? Okay, and then we have another issue here, we might say, that because Krishna is possessing everything to an unlimited degree, then he is also, by definition, Atmarama. He is satisfied in himself. But if he's satisfied in himself, why would he go lurking around, not only in his own parents' storehouse, but also in the storehouses of others, of the neighbors? Indeed, this is something which makes Mother Yashoda wonder, why is it that Krishna goes to the houses of the other gopis when we have plenty of butter and yogurt and everything in between right here available? Why does he do that? And she doesn't ask the question, but we might ask the question, if he is Atmarama, why is he doing this? Indeed, why? Well, because all the residents of Vrindavan can't wait until Krishna comes and steals their butter and their yogurt so that they can have darshan of Krishna. So it's Krishna giving opportunity through the foil of stealing butter and yogurt to give darshan to the others in Vrindavan, all the others. Then you might ask, then if that's so, then why do they complain to Mother Yashoda? In fact, it's described in Garga Samhita that one particular time, I mean, this was going on, it was rampant. There was theft going on throughout Braja. And there was no security force of Braja Damananda Das and his crew. So it was just a major problem. Theft was going on left and right. And so one day, well, different times the gopis would come and complain. Sometimes they'd come in a whole group and they would sit in the room with Mother Yashoda, and she would sit and listen to all the complaints, and then she would say, yes, this is a terrible thing. What to do? And then after they had expressed all of their frustration, they would just say, don't worry about it. And they would all kind of forget about it. And then the same thing would happen again. But one time, Mother Prabhavati came on her own. Mother Prabhavati is the wife of Upananda. Who is Upananda? Upananda is a brother of Nanda. Yeah, he's one of, is it 3 or 5 brothers? I think it's 5 brothers. So she came to Mother Yashoda. She said, you know, it's really gone too far. She said, look, I understand. What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine. There's no problem. You know, I don't mind that he's stealing all my yogurt and butter. It's not mine, it's all yours. But look what kind of example your Krishna is giving to all the other boys in the village. Now they're all thinking this is, you know, the thing to do. This is the cool thing to do, right? Do young boys tend to follow the example of other young boys? They sure do, and that can be a problem sometimes, right? So she said, you know, this is not good. If you don't train your son properly, what's going to happen to our whole village? And Mother Yashoda said, you know, you're right. I have to do something about this. What to do? Okay, she said, look, next time Krishna is at your house stealing, you catch him and you bring him to me, and I will give him a lesson which he will never forget. Whew, that sounds dangerous, huh? Mother Yashoda speaking heavy words, right? So Prabhavati thought, and she said, oh great, okay. This time we're going to get him. So, sure enough, in a very short time it happened. There was Krishna, not alone. He was with several of his friends. It was a whole gang. And they were organized. You know, they'd had a lot of practice. So they knew what to do. But this time they were surprised because they found that everything, all the valuables, all the treasures, the milk, the yogurt, the butter, it was all hanging in pots, way above, out of reach. Oh, this hadn't happened before. What do we do now? Okay, Krishna starts to organize his team Say, okay, you get that box over there, bring it here now, put that other box on top of that, okay, put another box on that, and then he climbs up, and he's still too short. He's still too short to reach the pot. But he sees a stick, so he grabs the stick, or they hand him a stick, he takes the stick, whack! He whacks the pot of butter, it spills, of course, goes everywhere. And, of course, the monkeys are all there waiting. Yeah. The way Shivaram Swami describes it, this is all a yajna. And the butter is, the sacrificial butter, which is going into the fire of Krishna's and his friends' mouths. And then the remnants from that are the remnants from the sacrifice that go to the monkeys. Anyway, this time Prabhavati is ready. She's there, and she stands at the entrance to the door so they can't get out. And they're trapped. But some of the boys, they escape anyway. They slip underneath her and they run out. But as soon as Krishna tries to run through, she grabs him. Now I've got you. Then she takes little Krishna and she drags him. She has to drag him because he knows what's going to happen. He's going to be taken before his mother. And there's going to be big trouble. So Krishna is crying. He's making a whole little river of his tears in the little trough that's created by the dragging of his feet. And he gets dragged to Nandagram, to the palace of Nanda Maharaj, and she brings him inside. And just before they get to where Mother Yashoda is, what happens? You know what happens? Krishna is so afraid of what Mother Yashoda is going to do that he hides his face underneath the sari of Prabhavati. So then they come to Mother Yashoda and Prabhavati reports. She gives a full police report about all that has happened in all detail. Thank you. In all detail. And Krishna is underneath her sari, sniffling. And then Mother Yashoda says, Krishna, let me see you. Pulls off the sari, and it's not Krishna. Who is it?
Madhumanka.
No, it's not Madhumanka.
It's her son.
No, it's not a girl.
It's her son.
It's Prabhavati's son, Kandava. Kandava. Same size, different person. And he's just kind of standing there. What's going on? Prabhavati is totally embarrassed. Mother Yashoda is kind of looking quizzically like, what, why are you bringing your son to me? What's all this about? And so Prabhavati turns around with her son, dragging her son back with her, scolding her son. We're getting animation of the whole thing.
It's brilliant.
We're getting a sort of stereo demonstration. And on the way back, he turns again into Krishna. And, Krishna looks up and smiles. And Prabhavati looks at him and says, what are you doing? And Krishna says, he wags his finger at Prabhavati. And what does he say? He threatens her. He says, if you do this again, if you try to catch me again and try to bring me to my mother,
You have a husband.
huh?
That she has her husband.
Yes, then I'll make it that it'll be your husband who's with you. So then, she became very fearful, and never again did she do that. But the word got out all over Nandagram, all over Rajya. Don't mess with Krishna. If he's stealing your butter and yogurt, just let him do it, because otherwise you could get in big trouble. Yeah. So this is all going on, but what else is going on, of course, is this relation between Krishna and Mother Yashoda. And this relation is, as we know, very sweet, and it's very strong. And any of you who are mothers, and also any of you who are fathers, who are many of you, know about this relationship of Vatsalya as the relation of parents to children. So Yashoda is the parent. Actually, according to our acharyas, she really is the mother of Krishna. Yeah. It appears, there's all kinds of complexities in how Krishna appeared kind of simultaneously as Yashoda's son and Devaki. But in any case, that's what at least Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says such things. In any case, that relationship is very strong and very sweet, and it's exhibited especially in this pastime. But it's exhibited in an interesting way, because instead of Mother Yashoda, just overflowing with affection, in this particular situation, she becomes angry. Have you ever become angry at your child? No. It's happening all the time, right? Where does that come from? It comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, we know what happens. At one point, Mother Yashoda decides it's time to, in fact, teach this boy a lesson, and so she decides the best way to do it. I don't know if you've ever tried this with your children, but she decides, I don't know if she decides it's the best, but she decides it's the only way to do it, to restrain him from his stealing propensity, is to tie him up. There's a kind of logic to this, that if a child is running around, of course usually nowadays you put him in a little, what we call playpen, or you put him in a room which you can't get out of. But somehow or other she decided that the solution was to tie him up. Some people might say, well, this sounds to me a little like child abuse. But at least in this particular situation, this particular culture, the particular time, this was the right thing to do. So she thought. That's not what Krishna thought. Krishna thought, she wants to restrict my freedom? No way. Stop me from running around playing with my friends? No way. So he decided it's not going to happen. She can try all she wants to tie me up, she's not going to do it. So she tries, she takes one rope, too short, takes another rope, adds it to the first rope, ties it around, too short, takes the third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So many ropes, always, how much too short?
2 fingers.
2 fingers. Now, does this mean that Krishna was getting fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter? No. Krishna was staying the same size. How is this happening? Well, if we understand, as Krishna demonstrated not long before this, that within him is the entire universe, and Mother Yashoda wants to check whether it's true that he's eating dirt. It turns out that he's not only eating dirt, he's eating the whole universe. So then it's not surprising that Krishna can stay the same size, and the ropes, no matter how many ropes, no matter how long, remain 2 fingers too short. Imagine Mother Yashoda's exasperation as she's, because she's determined. She's going to tie up Krishna, because it's really been too much how he's going around. Not just if he would steal of hers, it's his anyway, but stealing everyone else's, no. This has got to stop. So he's got to be tied up, he's got to learn the lesson. And so she keeps trying to tie him up, and Krishna notices that Mother Yashoda is not giving up. And this is our lesson. This is the lesson that we can all profit from this pastime, is that Mother Yashoda does not give up trying to, not to punish Krishna, but to hold Krishna. There's a prayer by an anonymous poet in which he says, O best of thieves, I am going to punish you by putting you into the prison of my heart, and I'm never going to let you out of my heart. So that's a very nice punishment. So this is Mother Yashoda's mood, and Krishna notices this. And so, although he has been displaying what's called his Sankalpa Shakti, the power of his resolve, his determination. If Krishna decides to do something, there's no way that he can be stopped, unless the devotee prevails. And that's what Mother Yashoda does. And so, Krishna withdraws his Sankalpa Shakti and replaces it with another Shakti called his Kripa Shakti. And that is represented by one of the 2 fingers that were of the measurement, the 2 fingers shortness of these ropes. The other finger is the determination, the effort of the devotee. The combination of the 2, it's a little, you might say, transcendental mathematical formula. 1 determination plus 1 mercy equals, what does it equal?
Getting to Krishna.
Okay, getting to Krishna. Yes. Yes, catching Krishna.
Sambandha.
Yes, Sambandha, we could say that also. Or another way we could put it is Sri Krishna Karshini. This is the attraction of Krishna. There are 6 characteristics of pure devotion, and the last of these, first is Kleshagni, then Shubhada, Moksha Labuddha Krit, Sudurlabha, Sandrananda, Visheshatma, Sri Krishna Karshini Chasa. Then, after overcoming all misery, Klesha Agni, Klesha Gni, Shubhada, auspiciousness, these come with sadhana bhakti, then Moksha Lagura Krit and Sudurlabha that come with Bhava Bhakti. And then Sandrananda means very rich, thick Ananda. And Krishna Karshini, these come with Prema. So Prema Bhakti, the ultimate feature of Prema Bhakti is that Krishna is attracted. He agrees to be captured. And he agrees to be obedient. But then you might say, but what about in the case of Krishna and Yashoda tying up Krishna? How long did he stay tied up? How long did he stay put? Not very long. But why was that? Because he had another job to do. He had to reciprocate with, he had to respond to the request of another devotee, namely Narada Muni. And so, as we all know, he becomes a kind of moving tree uprooter. sort of a, yeah. He becomes the original bulldozer. The primordial personal bulldozer. And he pulls down the two trees who are the two forms of Nalakuvara and Manigriva. And by this, the curse blessing of Narada is realized. So this is... Krishna sometimes gets a bit, well, we say in English, when gets into a bind. You know this expression? To get into a bind means, well, to get entangled. So in this pastime, Krishna, we experience all the time the effects of our karma, and so we feel sometimes, or maybe a lot of the time, entangled. In this pastime, Krishna allows himself to be entangled in the desires, in the wishes of his devotees, because he agrees to come under the control of his devotees. Therefore, he's allowing himself to be tied up, and he's pleasing Mother Yashoda, but not for so long, because he's got another job to do. Now we may ask, okay, so how do we ourselves come to such stage where we might eventually be in a position that Krishna agrees to come under our control? That is a big subject, but I would say, to keep it simple, the basic point is that we begin by hearing about those devotees under whom Krishna agrees to be in control. By hearing about how they are controlling Krishna, or rather how Krishna is agreeing to be controlled by them, and how that situation of so-called control and being controlled is not one of force but one of love. Or if you want to say it's one of force, it's the force of love. Then that is our, that's the key, that's the essential step that can lead us to the point to have Krishna agree to, in some sense, be subordinate to our wish. Now, of course, we want to be a little cautious about that, because the whole problem immediately comes up when we think, oh, Krishna under my control, yeah! I'm going to put put Krishna under my control, then he'll do everything I want. But of course, immediately our selfish desires are coming up when we understand that these exalted eternal associates of Krishna are what they are, precisely because they don't even have a trace of such a feeling. They only want to please Krishna. Sometimes Mother Yashoda, in her desire to please Krishna, makes Krishna angry. And the example of this is as Mother Yashoda is churning the yogurt, and Krishna is climbing on her lap and sucking her breast milk. What does Mother Yashoda do? She interrupts this sweet exchange because the milk which is on the stove is boiling over and it needs attention. And it's, they have this in management quadrant of urgent, important versus urgent, not important versus not urgent, important, not urgent, not important. Well, whatever, but for her it was in any case urgent to get up and take this milk off the stove because it was burning otherwise. And she was doing all this because that milk was for Krishna. It was to please Krishna. But was Krishna pleased? No. That's when he went on a little bit of a tantrum, a silent tantrum. He took the pot that she had been working on, churning, and she smashed it. He smashed it right then and there, and then he tracked his feet through it and he ran into the house and he started stealing butter. And Mother Yashoda could recognize from the footprints who was the culprit. What was her first reaction when she saw this? You know?
It's sticking in his.
No, that came later.
Tasty.
No, her first reaction was to smile. She was charmed by these little footprints, yogurt footprints. So that's an image of baby Krishna and his yogurt footprints that we can imprint on our minds, and not just in our minds, but in our hearts, especially this month, but throughout the year, as we remember the sweet relation of Krishna and Mother Yashoda, and also as we remember the sweet relation between Krishna and Radha, because at the end of the Damodarashtaka, it glorifies Radha Damodar. And you may wonder, what does Radha have to do with Damodar? Actually, Radha has everything to do with Damodar, but it's explained it's a different Damodar. Same and different. It's Damodar when he's older, and he becomes Damodar in effect again by a glance of Srimati Radharani. At one point, she throws a heavy glance at Krishna that is so heavy that he's completely stunned and frozen in place. He cannot move. So whereas Mother Yashoda had to make all this effort getting one rope, tying another, tying, it's not getting Krishna. For Srimati Radharani, all it took was one heavy glance. So we can see how powerful her control of Krishna is. And yes, in this way we can imprint these impressions on ourselves. Shri Radha Damodara ki jai. Shri Yashoda Damodara ki jai. Any further thoughts about Damodar, or any doubts you have about the possibility of imprisoning Damodara in your heart.
Mother Klondana?
It's wonderful. I really, Prabhupada says never relax. So
Never relax.
Never relax.
Ah.
In Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada
Yeah.
said. So in Bhaktivedanta manner, when I'm really completely exhausted, I say, my God, I can't relax.
I think Srila Prabhupada would tell you, it's okay, you can relax.
So I must say, when you say this wonderful story, I was thinking, I completely relax. So happy.
Samadhi.
Thank you so much.
You want to ask a question?
Yeah, Maharaj. I was just wondering if there was similar pastimes with Nanda Maharaj, because he's the king, he's also his father, so he's a position of authority.
Yeah,
over
it's
Krishna.
interesting that he seems to be mainly in the background, isn't it? I can't say anything authoritative, but my impression is that he's always kind of, he's more inclined to indulge Krishna. He's not so much into correcting Krishna. He's more into indulging him. He doesn't seem to see any fault at all in Krishna. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember reading of any time when Nanda Maharaj was, you know, what are you doing? And in fact, when Nanda Maharaj is preparing with his brothers and his colleagues, the other coward men, the yagya, the Indra yagya, and Krishna comes and says, "Daddy, what is this all about?" And he explains, you know, we do this is every year, we do this to please Indra, etc., etc. And then Krishna gives his very tongue-in-cheek sort of quasi-karma mimamsa argument why it's really not necessary. And then Nanda doesn't disagree, just says, all right, well then, yes, okay, let's do what you want. He's completely, you know, agreeable to everything. And yet, you know, in that case, to speak about Krishna subordinating himself to Nanda Maharaj, it's almost the other way around, but there's still, he's not, you know, forcing himself on Nanda Maharaj, and Nanda Maharaj is of course, you could say submitting to Krishna, but on the other hand, in the end, it's Nanda Maharaj's desire. Yes, let's do what Krishna wants. He's just so sweet. Yes, why not? And then Krishna, yes, let's do it. So it's a kind of mutual wanting to please each other, I guess you could say. Yes.
I think one of the reasons, this is my personal speculation, but one of the reasons why Nanda Maharaj was allowing to Krishna do anything what he wants is because actually he had him quite late. So he was just pleased, you know, can imagine you, let's say you're 40 or whatever, 50,
Yeah.
and you have a child, you just do, you know, you're gonna let him do whatever he wants.
You'll be more like a grandfather than a father.
If you look on all the images, Nanda Maharaj is always appear like with the big belly and the beard.
Yeah, that could be the case too.
So he was just happy whatever. Yeah. or maybe he didn't have energy to do anything about it.
Whatever. Yeah, that's kind of Nanda Maharaj's mood. Yeah, whatever. He seems to be, yeah, as you said, portly. He's a little bit, he's got a bit of a, so he's kind of well-fed and kind of satisfied. For him, everything is very nice. So for him, it's all yeah, Krishna, why not? But when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, oh, then the acharyas, I think again it's Vishwanath Chakravarti describes that when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, goes to Mathura, then basically Vraja shuts down, and everything becomes, the palace of Nanda Maharaj becomes filled with dust and cobwebs, because everyone just becomes kind of frozen in place. They can't do anything, they can't think anything, they can't, yeah, everything shuts down. Just, there's no more market, there's no more, yeah, you wonder how the cows were taken care of. But anyway, it was a situation of sort of mass stunning, you know. To be stunned is one of the 8 types of ecstatic symptoms, but in this case, the whole the whole Vraja became stunned. But I was just hearing that, again, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Bhanu Swami explains this, that there were actually 2 sets of residents of Vraja. So 2 complete sets. So when Krishna left, one set experienced him as having left, and the other set experienced him as being still there. Because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. Figure that out. That's Krishna. This is, yes, Krishna will keep us wondering.